Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 53rd episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. The auteur directors are some of the most intriguing and interesting artists we have in entertainment. Quentin Tarantino, Wes Anderson, Alejandro Jodorowsky, Paul Thomas Anderson, Ingmar Bergman, Woody Allen are some of the most noteworthy to name just a handful. Seeing an artist's true artistic vision without filters is one thing I love most about film. Art is meant to evoke feelings in the consumers, and I feel the artist's way of conveying that is very important to that art. It's important in getting your point across, whatever it may be. I don't think a conversation can be had about auteurs without discussing French based director Gaspar Noé. Gaspar has a style almost like none other. He uses some signature techniques like long, uncut takes, loud, intense music, psychedelic visuals, disoriented camera movements, and graphic imagery. He may not be for everyone, but he can't be denied in his style or the confidence he has as a filmmaker, and I think that's very important in this type of business. He is a very divided filmmaker, with some hailing him as one of the GOATs, and some thinking he's just pretentious trash. I won't say I'm in either camp, but I will say he is very intriguing. I personally felt that his film Climax is a masterpiece in my own eyes, but that's a personal preference. I can see both sides of the argument about him as a filmmaker. I do think he is very talented and has a very creative mind, but I think his best trait as a filmmaker is his supreme confidence and his belief in himself. Gaspar makes films for Gaspar and no one else. He is not concerned with if you like his movie or not. It takes that in great artists to get what they really want you to see from them. The Beatles weren't concerned with pleasing the masses. They pretty much invented a new style with every album they made. Listen to the White Album and tell me they didn't make the music they wanted to. Gaspar Noé is no different. One of the most interesting films I may have ever seen is Gaspar's Irreversible. Irreversible was released in 2002, starring the great Vincent Cassel, Monica Bellucci, and Albert Dupontel. The film polarized critics and moviegoers as you see some very violent and horrific scenes. He tells the story backwards, which I felt was a very effective and ineffective technique all at once, which I will get into later. This film is famous for its shaky cam, long takes, use of color, and intense performances. Like pretty much all of Gaspar's movies, this is an experience. I didn't really feel like I was watching a movie. I felt like I was riding with the leads trying to figure out what the hell has happened and what we are going to do about it. A film like this will say a lot about the filmmaker to most, but to me, all it showed me was this guy's mind works much differently than others. I'm sure some think this film is pretentious and maybe look at Gaspar in some sort of negative light for showing us some of the things he did in here, or even in the way he presents it. But I do feel there is a certain level of genius to this film. Let's start with the reverse storytelling. Because this movie plays backwards, we are literally starting at the end. We are absolutely lost as to what is going on, but we are very interested to find out. Using this technique will suck the watcher in instantaneously, as you must know, why are we here and why are we behaving this way? The reason I say we is because Gaspar's movies sort of play out like a video game we don't have control of. They play out like a third or first person view. As Marcus moves through the waves of the Rectum Club, it felt like we were playing a game going through the levels to get to the boss. The takes are long and camera is so disoriented you'll be wondering what's happening and begging to see. It's actually quite an effective technique that draws your eye in very closely. Things go insane, and after that, the layers begin to unfold. We are served with a visually gorgeous film as we roll with our leads going back in time, slowly seeing how and why we were where we started. The use of colors in this film are perfectly used through the scenes to strike just the right emotion and feeling. Although I don't think the story is particularly anything special when you analyze it in order, the style this man has covers that up and still makes such a simple, easy story work very well. It's the use of music, the brilliance of the actors, and some strong direction that fuels this train. I think that Noe is very self assured of what he can do with his mind and the ambition that it's taken in the way he presented some of the darkest and grittiest scenes a lot of people have ever seen. As the film goes on, we get closer to the infamous scene, a scene that a lot feel is one of the hardest scenes to watch, a scene that had people walking out, and a big reason it received lots of backlash upon its release. An 11-minute, one take scene with a stationary camera of a woman being assaulted in the worst way a woman can be. Now, I went into this movie knowing this was going to be in it. Now I'm going to discuss this scene as it relates to the movie and the way it made me feel, not about what happens in it. I will say this scene is beyond graphic and will hit every single watcher differently. I can see how this could be a lot for some. Now, me personally, I found the scene absolutely vile and hated the fact that stuff like this happens to women. Having said that, this scene is extremely well acted and extremely effective in making you understand the events you've already seen. From this point on, you can see where this is starting to go. Now, my issue with this scene is with the reverse storytelling. I have no emotional connection to this character at this point, so seeing this happen to her didn't strike my emotions for the character. I hated what was happening, but I didn't know this person. I think this is where the weak point in the reverse story comes in. I won't say a weakness, maybe just a disconnect from the story. When I think of scenes like this that strike me visually and emotionally, I think of Hilary Swank in Boys Don't Cry. When you see it happen to her in that movie, you have been rolling with her for a while and you feel like you're seeing this happen to your friend. As we get to know our characters more, as the story moves on, it really shows you how brilliant these performers were, particularly Cassell. I mean, this guy's good in everything, one of the most underrated actors. We see these characters in many different lights, and you see as the film goes on, the movie gets lighter and lighter in color. These characters change very much in this one night. And when you play it in order, you see the color change as if their lives get darker. Gaspar does add some interesting character relations between them, and it's fun to uncover it all. This thriller isn't perfect. A lot of people have complained about some of the language. I could care less about that. He's been accused of a few things because of this. That isn't an issue to me. But my issue mostly lies in the story. It lacks a lot with some of the characters. Would love to have known them better. Although I personally feel they are just secondary characters to Noe's style, which is the real star of this show. I feel like he did what he meant to with this movie and wasn't to make you love these characters. This movie was Gaspar showing us what he can do, how talented he is, and ultimately how his mind works. I think his later films show this even more, which could be a plus and a minus to him. But in this case, I did really dig what I saw. Like I mentioned earlier, I do think the story being told backwards does have its drawbacks. Another to this is we start the movie so intense and hot, and then we really let our foot off the gas as it rolls on. It slows the pace down pretty quick, which may be a good thing, but I typically like a nice slow build up, not a build down. All of my criticisms are really more nitpicks because a film like this is really a work of art that I would recommend to anyone who would like to challenge themselves as a viewer. Overall, I will give Irreversible an 8.3 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much for watching my Irreversible review. Let me know if there's a film you want me to review. Guys, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Check me out on Letterboxd. I'll link it below. It's Ralph Vader. My buddy and I have a podcast you can check out. It's called The Cutting Room Floor. I'll also link that below. Appreciate it if you guys check that out. I will see you next week. And don't forget the popcorn.